Hello and welcome to my first ever national trail. I'm here completing a 92-mile route that starts at Knettishall Heath and ends at the coast at Cromer. So come and join me on my journey as I follow the Peddars Way and the Norfolk Coast Path. Knettishall Heath marks the start of the Peddars Way and the Norfolk Coast Path National Trail and sits just into the county of Suffolk. Heading north, the path crosses the Little Ouse River into the county of Norfolk and also crosses the River Thet a few miles further along. Following the line of the original Roman road, the route crosses the busy A47 dual carriageway before following the path a few miles to the first village along the route, Stonebridge. The trail sticks to the original Roman road for the next 4.5 miles, passing a nature reserve at Thompson Water, and commences its final stage around field edges, along tracks, and finally along the road into the village of Little Cressingham. The start of this low-level national trail begins at the culmination of the Icknield Way and the Icknield Way long-distance paths. It's 46 miles to Holme-next-the-Sea, where I will join the Norfolk Coast Path and continue west to Hunstanton, before finishing the remaining 4 days' walk east to the seaside town of Cromer. To begin with, the opening stretch of this trail takes me through Blackwater Carr, a wildlife-rich woodland that flanked the Little Ouse River and nearby heathland. Crossing the Little Ouse River ends the very short section in Suffolk, with the remainder of the walk set entirely within Norfolk. The Peddars Way follows the edge of West Harling Belt to the north-northwest, and it's along here and at other points throughout the day you can clearly see the earthworks marking the route to the sea. It is thought that the Peddars Way was originally an ancient prehistoric trackway, similar to that of the Ridgeway and the Icknield Way, but was Romanised by the invading overseas army. Take care when crossing the A1066, as it's a fairly busy road, but after that the path follows the edge of Thorpe Woodlands and leads down to the riverbank of the River Thet. Take a moment as you arrive at the River Thet, as the mosaic habitat of reedbed, marsh and woodland around here plays host to some rare and beautiful wildlife. A boardwalk, which is prone to flooding, leads the walker to a footbridge and the route's last encounter with water for quite a few miles. The small wood of Broom Covert is passed, with its battle scars of old bomb craters, likely dating to World War II, are hidden away below the dense canopy and long forgotten. Leaving the covert, the route strikes a line along the original Roman road, aiming for the busy A47 dual carriageway. Take extra care crossing the road as there's only a small safety area between the carriageways, but once on the other side there is minimal disturbance from road noise until nearer the end of the day. Shortly after passing a small section of Thetford Forest, the path runs parallel to a dismantled railway line that once linked Thetford to Watton and Swaffham, which opened in 1869 and later closed in 1965. There are almost no traces left of this line until further ahead at Stonebridge, which is also the first settlement reached along the Peddars Way. Stonebridge is just a small village with a handful of houses, a mill which stands just off the route dating to 1875, and the Dog and Partridge Inn dating to the late 18th century. A little over a mile of road walking leads you on a gentle ascent to Galley Hill, where a track is joined along the edge of the military zone. It's along this stretch of trackway that the first of several standing stones by Tom Perkins is encountered. The footprints of our ancestors, familiar as our own faces, remote as fossils written on clay, and washed away over and over, over and over. As the path stretches out for endless miles ahead, you may notice the faint trickle of flowing water. This is the outflow of Thompson Water, a stunning wildlife-rich nature reserve owned and managed by Norfolk Wildlife Trust. With around 400 post-glacial depressions known as pingos, the reserve is home to 19 species of dragonfly, 25 species of butterfly, and over 600 species of beetle. The trail passes a series of large pits before arriving at another of Tom Perkins' poems written on stone. Surveyors have made their lines on land, trapping Albion in a net of roads, a taut web on the edge of empire. This stone also marks roughly where the National Trail diverts away from the original line of the Peddars Way, due to it being lost through millennia. The original route can be seen slightly from the air, with a parch mark just over to the right, running towards the trees. We are nearing the end of our first day along the Peddars Way and the Norfolk Coast Path National Trail. This straight track leads to the B1108, where the edge of the field is followed into the village of Little Cressingham, a mile or so to the west. With a comfortable overnight stay at Sycamore House B&B, and plenty of time to relax and look ahead to the next day as we progress into the spectacular village of Castle Acre. Day 2 along the Peddars Way and the Norfolk Coast Path National Trail begins in the tiny village of Little Cressingham and follows country lanes north past the neighbouring village of South Pickenham with views across to Pickenham Hall. A few miles further along, the route enters North Pickenham before joining the original Roman road once more. This is followed for several miles by passing Swaffham and crossing the busy A47. Just beyond is the deserted medieval village of Great Palgrave, where the route turns northwest and descends down a gentle hill, crosses the A1065 and enters Castle Acre by the breathtaking Priory ruins. Little Cressingham is a tiny village with a big history. I've taken time out to visit the nearby ruined church of St Andrew. The church dates to the medieval period with reused Norman fragments. Close by is Little Cressingham Windmill, dating to 1820 and given a Grade 2 star listing. The mill was once used to pump water as well as grind grains. The route out of the village follows quiet country lanes for a little over 3 miles, with views back to Little Cressingham Windmill and views over the surrounding fields. It's along this stretch you are most likely to see brown hare running around the local farmland, as well as an increasingly rare birds such as yellowhammer and linnets. Pickenham Hall is one of the first buildings encountered out of Little Cressingham and was built between 1902 and 1905. Shortly after Pickenham Hall, the route finally leaves the road and follows field edges around Grazing Marsh and eventually crosses the River Wissey via a footbridge. Leaving North Pickenham behind, the route rejoins the original Roman road once more and passes by the remains of the Thetford to Watton and Swaffham Railway, the same line that was passed yesterday at Stonebridge. A large wind farm just to the south of Swaffham has remained in sight for most of the day, and it's only now that the path is beginning to pass it and heading straight for the busy A47 main road. Take extra care crossing the A47, but take note of the facilities nearby. Just a stone's throw off the route is a fast food restaurant and garage, so there's a chance to top up on supplies at this point. Just as you pass Palgrave Hall, there is the site of Great Palgrave deserted medieval village. The village was mentioned in the Domesday Book and survived until the 15th century. Earthworks including streets survive in pasture and part of a moat nearby, with medieval, Saxon and Roman coins as well as other artefacts discovered at the site. Continuing over Bartholomew's Hills to the northwest, the Peddars Way crosses the A1065 and makes its way round to South Acre and a narrow back road into the village of Castleacre. The narrow lane passes to the south of Castleacre Priory on the opposite side of the River Nar. The substantial remains of Castleacre Cluniac Priory create a romantic and enigmatic scene over the gentle flow of the River Nar. Founded in about 1089, the priory was the home of the first Cluniac order of monks in England, with some of the ruins standing to almost full height. The ruins are in the care of English Heritage, and for a small fee, visitors are able to walk around and explore this fascinating place. Heading into the village, there are plenty of hints of the nearby Norman Castle, which I've decided to explore as I set out tomorrow morning, but there is one final historical treat just up ahead. This is Castleacre Bailey Gate, a spectacular 13th century ruin with two round towers on its northern side, and next to the local pubs and plenty of other accommodation, including the Ostrich Inn and Bailey Gate B&B. Day 3 along the Peddars Way and the Norfolk Coast Path National Trail begins at the historic village of Castleacre, with the day ahead being one of the straightest paths on any long distance walk. After leaving the castle ruins behind, the route follows several miles of country lanes along the line of the original Roman road. The trail joins a track at an Ordnance Survey column and continues to the crossing of the A148. As you continue along the Roman road, there are traces of prehistoric man living in the area, with several burial mounds alongside the path. The Peddars Way continues in a near dead straight line, past the village of Fring, and eventually to the road, which leads the walker into the village of Sedgeford for an overnight stop. Castle Acre is famous for its breathtaking ruined priory and dramatic Norman Motte and Bailey castle. The great earthworks are some of the most impressive in the country and convey the power of this medieval fortress. The castle was founded by William de Warenne shortly after the Norman conquest, with a country house being built on the site first and then converted into a stone keep around the 12th century. The remains include a large portion of the stone keep with the perimeter wall around most of the site, the layout of the Great Hall in the centre of the bailey, and substantial remains of a 12th century gatehouse on the northwestern side. The Peddars Way leaves Castle Acre along a straight road northwest for a little over 3 miles. For the first half of the route stays behind the hedge line before the final section along the road itself. The route leaves the road at an Ordnance Survey trig point, marking 92 metres above sea level. It's from here on the route sticks to the original Roman road, and manages to avoid almost all roads until the end of the day at Sedgeford. The Peddars Way crosses the B1145, which marks one of the possible overnight camping locations just next to the trail. Several other country lanes are crossed as the path continues further northwest, around Great Massingham, and onward to the crossing of the A148, Kings Lynn to Fakenham Road. From high above the path, it's possible to see how straight the Roman road really is, stretching off into the distance and bound for the coast. Take care crossing the A148 at Harpley Dams, and it's just after here the route gains about 130 feet in elevation, with hints of ancient people who lived in the area thousands of years ago. The first of these ancient sites is a Bronze Age bell barrow, just 70 metres off the path and in the middle of a field. You can just make out a ditch that surrounded an earth platform 1 metre high that was used to bury the dead of ancient Bronze Age man. Just slightly further along is another burial mound. This one is a Bronze Age bowl barrow, remaining at a height of 3 metres and one of the most obvious barrows in the area. The countryside around this part of northwest Norfolk is vast and open, with broad skies and lovely views. The view back along the Peddars Way shows the Roman road once more, as straight as an arrow and a testament to Roman engineering. Looking forward, and there's an end in sight, with the North Norfolk Coast beginning to edge closer with every step. The tiny village of Fring is only just bypassed, with the tower of its 14th century church seen over the treetops. I've headed slightly further north to pick up the B1454 to follow that west into the village of Sedgeford and to my overnight stay at the King William IV pub. The fourth and final day along the Peddars Way begins in the village of Sedgeford and follows the road to rejoin the National Trail and original Roman road. Bound for the coast, via the Norfolk village of Ringsted, this is the last settlement until the North Sea, and the last opportunity for refreshments. Holme-next-the-Sea is reached after crossing the A149, where the Peddars Way joins the Norfolk Coast Path. To complete the entire National Trail, I'm heading west along the coast for an overnight stop at the seaside town of Hunstanton, passing a ruined church and taking a detour to an enigmatic shipwreck along the way. Leaving Sedgeford behind, the route rejoins the National Trail by the Magazine, a 17th century powder magazine or armoury, now converted into a holiday cottage. The path turns from tarmac into footpath shortly after, as the route strides northwest for the coastal path. Walking out along this straight path, it's worth noting that this is the last time you'll be walking on the original Roman road, as once you arrive at Ringsted, the Roman road becomes lost through the changing landscape. Ringsted is entered via a small duck pond and is filled with beautiful flint and stone houses, including this stunning 17th century farmhouse. Just round the corner is the Gin Trap Inn, which was built in the early 18th century and a perfect place to stop for lunch or stay overnight instead of Sedgeford a few miles back. Slightly further along, the road passes the village shop, which provides the last opportunity for food or drink, until the end of the day at Hunstanton. Next to the village shop is the beautiful church of St Andrew, with its tower dating to around 1300. As the village of Ringsted is left, the route passes round a disused windmill by Mill Farm. The mill has been given a Grade 2 listing and dates from the early 19th century, and it's from this point that the sea is clearly seen for the first time on the whole walk, and on a clear day it's possible to make out the Lincolnshire coast on the other side of the Wash. And I, being here, have been part of all this. Caught and thrown like sun on water, have entered into all around me. Just after this final poem, the path continues down to cross the A149 and joins the narrow lane leading to Holme-next-the-Sea and the National Trail footpath marker by the beach, marking the very end of the Peddars Way part of the trail. This is where most walkers have to make a decision, to turn right and begin the Norfolk Coast Path east, or to turn left and follow the 2.5 miles of trail to Hunstanton. For me, I want to complete the full trail, so I'm turning left and following the final 2.5 miles into Hunstanton. Having checked the map, there's lots to see along the way, including plenty of wildlife, a ruined church, and an enigmatic shipwreck. The first point of interest as you enter Hunstanton is the Coast Guard Tower, which originally formed part of a World War II coastal battery. Sitting alongside the tower is the brilliant white Hunstanton lighthouse, dating back to 1830 and now converted into holiday accommodation. In the middle of the field alongside the lighthouse are the remains of St Edmund's Chapel. The ruins have been converted into a World War I memorial garden, but originally date back to the medieval period, with the possibility of Norman origins. It is said that the coast here was the landing place of King Edmund of East Anglia, later martyred by the Danes. Eventually, the cliff-top path gives way to numerous paths leading down to the extensive mudflats and beach, and visitors can enjoy the unique geological site along the coast. The cliffs beneath Hunstanton are famous for its striking red and white stripe. The stripe is formed of two rock types, a brown layer of sandstone called carstone, and the line of chalk made from limestone. The rock dates back about 100 million years and is packed with fossils of creatures that once lived in ancient tropical seas. Located just below the plunging cliffs is a shipwreck of the Sheraton, a trawler that was launched in 1907. In 1945 it became a target ship before being wrecked in 1947 and left to erode away through the ages. Heading back along the beach and up to the busy seafront, there are plenty of places to eat, drink and sleep. Being right on the trail, I have chosen the Golden Lion Hotel, just behind the remains of a medieval cross, located on the green.